hey friends, really glad that you are here with us on the Thriving Christian Artist podcast today. Got a brand new friend who is a fellow musician, although much, much, much more accomplished than I. Gina Morgano is here. And Gina, so glad that you're here with me. Welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me, Matt.
Absolutely, absolutely. I was just having the best time. I was just telling you a minute ago, listening to your voice on YouTube and seeing all the great things that you're up to. But for those folks who are just getting to know you, why don't you take just a minute and kind of let us know what your world looks like, and we'll kind of jump into some of your backstory in a minute. So,
Sure, thanks so much. So, I am a vocalist and a voice teacher. I host the Practice Parlour podcast about practices that shape artists' lives on stage and off. I've
nice.
created a practice planner, so that's my world.
How awesome. How awesome. Now, if you're like me, you probably started singing, I guess, when you were like out of the womb. So what does that music story look like for you as you grew up?
Yeah, so I actually started playing the piano when I was a toddler, and I was fortunate enough to go to a school district that had a thriving performing arts program.
Nice.
So I picked up other instruments along the way, the violin, the clarinet, and then right around high school age, I shifted my focus to the voice and singing.
Wow. So you went to then, I guess, university for that and on to advanced degrees and that sort of thing. And I know a lot of people, my mom was a choral music director for 40 plus years. So she always had this tension, like, am I a performer? Am I a teacher? I mean, do you kind of identify as one or the other, or you love both, or?
I love both. I mean, my heart is so in performing, but also I was so fortunate to have amazing teachers growing up who shaped my life. And
Yeah.
so I love being able to give back in that way and help other people find their voice.
Yeah. And I think for all creatives, I mean, we all have to kind of do a little bit of everything nowadays, right? Nowadays, what do they call it now? It's a cool thing to say multiple streams of income, but used to that just was like how you made it, right? You had to have
Yes.
multiple streams coming in, but I think that's great. So, well, cool. Well, so, I was thinking about this as we were getting ready for this podcast, and I saw a quote the other day by Flannery O'Connor, and I thought this would set what you want to talk about and what we want to talk about today up so beautifully. She said this, she said, my faith is not what I write about or what I paint about, but it's the light by which I see. Isn't that good?
That's beautiful.
It's like, oh. And, I know that you're passionate not only about your faith, but about walking as a person of faith in the marketplace and your business and, all the things that you're doing. But like a lot of us, you don't want to necessarily have to always feel like you have to put that label on there. And I've been hopefully teaching artists to do that in the visual arts realm for a lot of years, but I know you're really passionate about that as well, because it's one thing to live as a believer and to have a testimony that shapes who you are and shapes the way that you live. But obviously in this world, if that label is on our forehead or in the forefront of what we're doing, many times that can cut off any opportunity that we have to develop relationship and be who God's called us to be. So when did you, I guess let's kind of ramp up to it. When did you start to realize that was something that you had to really manage and walk through in your life? And how has the Lord helped you to begin to walk in that way in a real authentic manner?
So when I went to elementary school, we moved to this new school district, and it just happened to be an elementary school that had a lot of Jewish people in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
So right from the get-go, my very best friends, many of them were Jewish. They were not Christian.
Right.
And so I was surrounded by different faiths growing up. And, I look back on my life at the people that I've encountered, and some of the people who I most admire and who most exemplify the values that I share. And I would even say, like, my Christian values are not Christian.
Yeah.
And so yes, I sing in church and I perform Christian repertoire and sacred repertoire, but my work and my art and my life is for everybody. It's not just for people who identify as Christian. So it's sort of built into my DNA, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. I think for some people that comes easier, for some people that's harder, depending on the background that you came from. I remember for me growing up in the Bible Belt, and did you grow up, you're living in New York right now, I guess, right? Is that?
Right now I'm in Pittsburgh. I grew up in Pittsburgh
Okay.
and I was in New York. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So growing up in the Bible Belt for me, I mean, it was like, everybody I knew was a Christian, went to church, all of that. And when I moved here to Asheville, North Carolina, several years back, very, very artsy town, not an overtly, Christian ethos, if you will, that sort of thing. And I remember kind of being freaked out about that. And I remember the Lord told me one day, because I was like, what if people find out who I am and, all this other stuff that I'm doing, and just kind of turn me off relationally from that perspective. And I remember the Lord saying, Matt, you do the loving and I'll do the changing. And I thought, wow, that is so good. Because as a creative, I mean, our creativity opens the door for relationships in ways that, just talking to people or trying to share your faith, never would. So how does that work out in your life? How do you, are you thinking about that every day consciously, or are you trying to live from a place that, like Flannery O'Connor said, of your faith is the light by which you see? I mean, how is that playing out for you on a daily basis?
Yeah. So one of my favorite, most life-changing books is Simon Sinek's Start With Why.
Mm,
And I went through that why discovery process. And what I came up with as far as my why is to honor the light in each person so that together we can build a bridge to the divine.
mm,
And that's sort of the lens that I see the world through, is that I want to see the good and see the best in every person that I come across and help them to see that good in themselves. And if we all can do that, then we're creating a better world. We're creating a world that is closer to heaven on earth, that is closer to this godly world that we envision as Christians.
yeah.
And it's not that I have to be like speaking about being a Christian all the time,
Mm,
or singing Christian songs. But whatever I do, I want to live by my values and I want to see the good in each person.
yeah. I often talk about embracing the mystery. And I think, as visual artists, I've been in that realm for, I guess, most of my recent life, but although musician as well. But, you create a piece, or maybe you create a song or a book or whatever it is, and you have intention for it because you came out of this place of, inspiration and connection and that sort of thing. And you so want people to get that. But I think being an artist is so much about embracing that mystery and allowing your own self to be able to release this creative project into the world, this song, this performance, this whatever it is, into the world, and let the viewer and the listener have the experience that they need to have. And is that easy for you? Is that hard? It's hard for me sometimes.
Oh,
Is that easy or hard for you? Or is that something that you're always kind of having to let go, or what?
yeah, no, it's something I think we're always working on as
Yeah.
artists. But, if you think of creation and the creator, and we are this vessel of creativity, we are
Yeah.
co-creators, we have an ability to create a better world. And so that's such a gift, and that's something that I think artists can tap into really well, but that every person has that gift, that every person has creativity within them and the ability to change things for the better.
Yeah, absolutely. We talk about on this podcast a lot in some of my books, the idea of that comes out of Exodus 31 of, Bezalel was both filled with the Spirit of God and skilled in every manner of workmanship, as kind of the first artist other than God in the Bible, and how do you really balance that in your life? This idea that you can be passionate and called by God to be an artist and be somebody that is going after this divine design, if you will, in your life. And at the same time, that doesn't mean that things are going to happen on autopilot just because you may feel called and passionate. There's also this skilled side of things as well, that where you're having to put your hand to the plow, as it were, every day and develop the skills that you need and that sort of thing. For you, I know skill development has been a multi-year, if not decades, journey. How's your faith helped to sustain you and grow you in that process?
Oh, that's such a great question. I think especially, when I was living in New York, I was surrounded by my peers and my colleagues, and there's just so much rejection. That city is so competitive.
Yeah.
And we're working on our craft, we're working on our skill, working to get better. And we're just met with no, 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 no. And it can be so hard to get down on yourself and to start feeling bad about yourself and to
Yeah.
lose your faith. And my faith is really it's what sustains me. It's what keeps me through. It's believing that if I do my part, then things will work out for the better. That I will be able to connect. I will be able to make an impact. I will, be able to experience some of the joys that I'm hoping to, right? All of that, but we have to do our part, right? We can't just like sit back and
Right. Yeah, I think a lot of people think that though, because they're like, God called me to be an artist, or I feel that, so passionate, like everything's going to come down in one little, wrapped up, present or whatever. I had a mentor of mine tell me often, he said, God gives us a diamond, but it's in a lump of coal. There's a lot of chipping away and hacking and polishing and faceting the diamond that has to take place before it ever really starts to shine in our life. And that's always a challenge for all of us, I think, to find that place of feeling where you're cooperating with the Holy Spirit and him opening doors and all of that, but at the same time doing the work that you have to do, like you said. I really am a big journaler and love taking I'm a big worshiper. I love being in God's presence and that sort of thing. Those practices for me, even walking in the woods as an artist that uses natural materials and that sort of thing, can really be a spiritual experience for me. Are there practices in your life that have become sort of rhythmic as you engage the Holy Spirit in your creative process and just your life as a creative?
Yes, absolutely. I am also a huge journaler and stationery lover and planner. Val Marie Paper makes these prayer journals that I love. And so I keep one by my bed and I'll just write things down as I come to them.
Yeah.
I love doing Julia Cameron's The Artist's Way. So I'll actually put my morning pages in that prayer journal. I also love to take walks, and I've noticed that quieting the noise is so important. So making sure that at least once a week, if not more, I'm taking a walk where I'm unplugged. I'm not listening to music and listening to podcasts. Really just finding time to be quiet and to reflect and to pray, but also just to get things out of my head and onto paper. So that I can clear my mind. And I feel like that's when the creativity comes, is in the quiet moments.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I love journaling as well. I mean, just this cathartic kind of thing. If you can not judge what you're writing, but just let it flow. And I was actually talking to somebody in our mentoring program the other day, and they were saying, as they feel like God is speaking to them in their journaling, they change the color of their pen that they're writing with. And I was like, oh, that's so cool, to be able to go back and kind of see, what do I feel like is me? What do I feel like is the Holy Spirit speaking to me, and that sort of thing. But I think, yeah, it's just beautiful how that, I think, can be a pressure release valve for all of us in our life, and a place of centeredness. So I know you're a really big person that has core beliefs in your life that really sort of try to, anchor you in all the things that you're doing, not only, connection with the Lord, but this idea that everybody has a voice, everybody has something that really matters in their life, and that everybody should be cultivating that in their life, that creative side of them. So how is that, those core beliefs, how are those playing out in the work that you do and how you show up in the world?
Yeah, well, I mean, first of all, as a teacher, right, that's what I help people try to find their voice and amplify their voice. And I like to say, tune into their inner voice and let that sing, because so often as musicians, we can become focused on our outer voice, on instrument that we play, our output. But it's really about bringing and tapping into that inner core knowing and being and creativity, and bringing that out into the world so that it can have a ripple effect on other people.
Yeah. Yeah. How do you, when you talk about your inner voice, what do you think that looks like for you? Are there words that come to mind, or are there characteristics that come to mind with you? Like for me, I think about myself as an artist. I love natural materials. I love the earth. I love nests and pods and all of these sort of things. When you think about your unique voice as an artist, what does that mean for Gina?
Oh, wow. So a couple of things come to mind immediately. The first is a feeling a feeling of lightness and expansion versus constriction. I tend to be very anxiety prone. So if I find myself going there, that is very different than if I feel light and open. That's sort of a sign that that's my inner voice telling me that's a good direction to go.
Yeah.
The other thing is that in my work, I try to keep things very positive. So I try to choose songs and material that are about hope, that are about messages of healing and comfort and these uplifting messages.
Yeah.
So I'm very, very intentional about the projects that I take on, the pieces that I choose to sing. The other thing is that I love classics. I love classic literature. I love the Victorian time period. And I'm really big on drawing connections between things, but also between time periods. I believe a classic always offers something new. And so when we can pull those threads and those connections, I feel like that is my creative voice.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I'm interested, I really feel very called to help artists connect their art life, business life, and spiritual life kind of, together in this holistic approach. And I know one of the things that is always a struggle for, especially for emerging artists, is this idea of balancing what we just talked about a minute ago, these multiple streams of income that are often necessary to, as you're getting started and that sort of thing. Take us through, if you're comfortable in doing that, what your time looks like on a weekly basis, on a regular basis. How much time are you giving to your musical practice versus the development of other courses and teaching things that you're doing versus performing? Because I think, having a window into people's world is often helpful to say, oh, okay, this, like, I often tell artists, hey, listen, if you're a visual artist, 50% of your time is making and 50% of your time is marketing what you make. And they're like, oh, I'm not overworked. Like, this is normal, So what does your normal look like as you're balancing all the different things that make your life possible right now?
Yes. Well, I shall first say that I do not have it all figured out. I am still
none of us do, right?
So I agree with you. So right now I teach 2 days a week, and then I spend the other days working on my singing projects and working on the business admin marketing side. I agree wholeheartedly that at least 50% needs to go to marketing, and I cannot say that I am there yet. It's definitely, as my friend Annalisa Lemming says, a balancing act.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's trying to find that sweet spot where you're doing the things that you need to do, but you're also staying inspired creatively and that sort of thing. So it's always a challenge for all of us. So Gina, I love the work that you're doing. I love that you're just right in the middle of it and trying to make this thing work like all of us, and trying to listen to the voice of the Lord and do the things that he's called you to do. I know folks are going to want to connect with you and grab your new planner. Talk about the planner real quick, because I love that. I saw it on your website. I was like, oh my gosh, our people are going to just love this. So what's that all about? And then where can folks connect with you for future connections? So
thank you so much.
Yeah.
Well, the practice planner was designed, as I mentioned, I love stationery and journaling.
Yeah.
And I was looking for a planner devoted to practice that was elegant. It was geared towards a professionally minded artist, not a little kid. So I created one. And there are daily practice pages and weekly reflections where you can actually map out what you're working on, reflect on your learning so that you can go back to it and remember these aha moments that you have. And then there's also a prep work section, and that includes things like alignment and self-care and goal setting, so that you're really going into your month of practice with intention and purpose. So that is there. People can download a free daily page. My website is ginamorgano.com, and I'm on Instagram and Facebook and YouTube at Gina Morgano.
Awesome. And we'll put all those links in the show notes so that everybody can see it across all the webinet. I think I just made that word up. It's like the internet and the web and the webiverse. I don't know, but it's going to be down there. So anyway, well, Gina, thank you so much for being on today. And we'll be sure to send all our folks over to see what you're doing and to connect with you, and hopefully get rid of a lot of those planners, get them in people's hands so that they can begin to live their best life and live the life God designed for them. So thanks so much. You're an inspiration, and I'm glad you're on today with me.
Thank you so much, Matt. It's been great to chat with you.